With the right tools and a little bit of practice, you will be cutting glass sheet like a pro. The tools used for cutting glass are very inexpensive, and some of what you need to do this you might already have available. What we're going to go over today is basic techniques for cutting glass sheet down to size. We're also going to look at how we're able to use abrasives to clean up sharp edges on those sheets of glass. And we're also going to take a little bit of time to demonstrate how to drill holes in glass as well. So among the things that we have out on the table today are a foam-backed non-slip ruler, which we're going to use as a guide. Here we have examples of a whole bunch of different types of glass cutting tools, a Sharpie for marking, a combination square for my layout, oil for lubricating the axle that the roller on these cutters rides on, drill bits that are engineered to be used with tile and glass, plasticine or oil clay that we're going to use as a dam around the area that we're drilling through on our glass sheet to retain water, which is the lubricant that we're going to use for our drilling. You cannot successfully drill through plate glass without it being thoroughly lubricated throughout the cutting process. An alternative to building a dam would be a continuous spray of water from a spray bottle. Glass is really, in most cases, mostly sand, and sand is silica. So the most common glass, and the glass that's used for things like windows and picture frames, is what's referred to as soda lime glass. So it's called soda lime glass because the silica or sand has had soda and lime added to it as fluxing agents that reduce the melting temperature of that glass. Glass is referred to as an amorphous solid. And the reason that it's called an amorphous solid is that it is not static. It actually will move over time. Windows in old buildings will actually be thicker at the bottom of the window than they are at the top window, because that glass will actually migrate over time, resulting in changing in the thickness of the cross-section of that glass. Window glass or plate glass is manufactured to standard thicknesses, the most common being 1/8 of an inch thick. It is also among the least expensive glass sheet that you can buy. This glass is commonly referred to as soda glass or soda lime glass because of one of the amendments that's added to silica, which is the foundation of all glass, or sand. One of the things that's added to that sand is this soda lime that reduces the melting temperature of the glass. Other types of glass, like borosilicate glass, have boron trioxide added to it instead of soda lime to impart heat tolerance to that glass that allows it to be exposed to flame and heated and cooled for things like what's called lamp work, where you're able to take a piece of glass and heat it up and stretch it out and allow it to cool. If you try to do that with something like window glass, as it cooled, it would go through what's called thermal shock, and that would result in the glass cracking, or it would set up tension in the glass that would relieve itself as a crack somewhere down the road. So borosilicate goes under some trademark names like Pyrex, which is the glass cookware that some of you all might be familiar with. So what we're going to look at today is simple techniques for cutting glass down to size. This same techniques can be applied to mirrored glass. Glass cutting tools don't actually cut through glass. What they do instead is they have a hardened wheel that rides on an axle that's held in the center of this glass cutter, and through consistent, uniform pressure on the surface of the glass, drawing across the surface of that material, you don't cut through the glass. What you do is you interrupt the surface tension of the glass, which is much of what gives glass its structural stability. Once that surface tension is interrupted on one side of the glass, we're then going to turn it over and tap along the line where we've interrupted that surface tension, which should cause that glass to then break along the line where we've interrupted that surface tension. Another technique used for walking that line across or activating that line by putting pressure on the surface of the glass is by using pliers like this. These are called running pliers, and it has a mating parts that when you squeeze down along the line of that glass, it compresses it and initiates a force across that line that, under the best of circumstances, follows the direction of the line you described when you interrupted the surface tension on the glass with that tool. So the more accurately you mark your lines, the more likely that cut in the glass is going to correspond to what your needs are. So I really like a combination square for doing layout for something like this. Left is loose to unlock. I'm going to slide that out to the 6-inch mark on my combination square, rotate clockwise to secure in place. I like a Sharpie for marking on that glass. I'll bring it off the edge of the table and mark at either side, and then rotate my glass and mark for the other side of my cut. I'm then going to turn the glass over. Oh, and it's very important to understand that if the glass is not clean, the glass is not going to cut well. For that wheel to be able to do the proper job, the surface has to be clean and free of any kind of dust or dirt or any kind of grit. So I thoroughly clean the glass in advance of cutting it. And I find that newsprint or newspaper is one of the best things for cleaning glass. It tends to not leave any kind of fuzz or dust on the surface like you would get, that you would potentially have when you're using a rag. If you don't have a glass cleaner available, like Windex, vinegar is also excellent for cleaning glass. So once my glass is cleaned, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my work up in a way that it's positioned that I have a good mechanical advantage, so I can see the line that I'm trying to cut through, and it's within the length of my reach or my grasp. I'm going to take my foam back non-slip ruler and line it up with the line that I want to cut. I'm going to take my glass cutter, and it's very important that we always oil the bearing or axle of our cutter with just a very small amount of oil, and then draw that wheel over a piece of paper a couple of times to take the excess glass off. Now, the cutting wheel itself sits in from the outside edge of the tool, and the tool is held between your fingers like this and your thumb so that you have a good steady grip on the tool. Let's make sure we've got proper eye protection on, because glass can splinter when you're cutting through it. So I will now line my cutting wheel up with the line. Nice, smooth, steady downward pressure. And run right off the edge, but make sure that you're running off that edge onto a soft surface, not a hard metal surface, because that would damage the wheel.